Hello, welcome to a very special swap in Joysticks. I'm Ben Ostwick, and I'm joined as always by Ed Nightingale,
That's me.
the short one. And
I'm not that short.
you were just complaining that you were so short.
I said I feel short, but it's just because I'm next to you.
Yeah, have you not got used to
I'm
it yet?
blaming the chair.
Not got used to it. But yeah, welcome. This is, you can probably see, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to it on podcast player, then you won't be able to see this. But we are in front of a very bare Kallax because literally after I've edited and uploaded this podcast, the whole computer systems are all getting packed away because we are moving, and this will be the final one in this location. So hopefully it'll look a little bit better, nicer, fancier next time. Who knows? But also we should probably, before we go into GDC, which is why we're doing this special, probably explain why we've not been on for a while. The reason is that well, do you want to explain why?
I have no idea what you're about to say.
We just got bored. No, we just found that every week we were just kind of talking about some games, and it wasn't very exciting. So we're kind of saving these for more special occasions, when we've got guests, when we've got something very special to talk about, when we've got our game of the year stuff, or if it's been a few weeks and we just want to talk about loads of games. So there won't be every single week, but if we're in the mood to do them, we will. What we're trying to do maybe a bit more is to do some streams together. So follow twitch.tv/biggestbennis, and we're trying to, if we're not doing a podcast, we'll try and do a stream together on the Thursday.
Yeah, some sort of co-op game would be good. And yeah, well, we'd love to do some more interviews as well. So we're going to try and do that sort of stuff and make sure that the podcast is not just two annoying guys wittering on about video games.
Exactly. And I mean, there are enough of those podcasts
maybe
around.
People like that.
No, there are enough of those podcasts around.
Yeah, that's true.
And we don't have anything that would separate us from them, sadly. So Ed has been to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Did you wear sunflowers in your hair?
No.
Do you know that song?
No.
If you're going to San Francisco, be sure to wear sunflowers in your hair.
What a terrible voice you have.
How offensive.
It was, yeah.
Well, right. Anyway, seeing as you don't understand that reference, we'll just go straight into San Francisco. Gus, yeah, you went there you tell the listeners.
So I went to San Francisco for a week on my own to go to the Game Developers Conference, known as GDC. And it's an annual conference, so it's every year. And
our listeners, they understand games and they also understand English, and so we should maybe speak to them as though they're over 18.
All right. I'm just giving the basics out, and I'm done with the basics now. That was it.
Okay, good.
So yeah, that's what I was there for. I played some games. I did some interviews. I had some meetings with people. I met lots of people. I went to some panel events. It's probably the biggest thing. Well, it's definitely the biggest thing I've done on my own in terms of sort of work conferences. My only comparison is Gamescom, which obviously we've both been to, which is in Germany. And the difference is that's very much a consumer show. So there's the massive bit for the public, which we both went through, and it stank of sweat and farts and hormones. And then there's like the media sort of businessy bit next to it. But because of that, Gamescom is very much showing off demos, hands-on time for games before they come out. That's the main part of it, I would say, at least from my point of view. GDC is a B2B conference, so it's very much for developers to meet other developers and have meetings and learn from each other. That's why a big part of it are the panel events, where there are developers saying, oh, this is how we made this tiny sound effect in this game, and this is why you should care about it. Or lots of people, tech companies going, this is our new AI tool, and this is why you should use it, or not. And there's a lot of that stuff going on. So as a journalist, it's kind of like you're coming in from the outside of that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But because there are so many developers in one place, it's a really good place to just meet lots of people at one go. And the panel events can actually be really interesting. So my time was a mixture of being in the conference. There's a big expo hall with loads of demos to play and meeting rooms. But a lot of meetings actually happen in various hotels around
That's
the
what you
block.
told me. I was like, It's like, I'm in
definitely business
another. I'm going
meetings.
to another hotel now, and I was like, oh, I wonder if it's going to be like you just going to some random guy's room, and he's like, yeah, I think it is. I was
No,
like,
it
okay.
literally is. It
Wow.
literally is. So the
Did
conference.
it, at least a suite, please.
Oh, they were suites. Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't just like you sat on the edge of a bed.
It was
playing a video game.
It was a suite. Of,
Okay.
the sort of loungy bit in there.
Well, you're away. You do what you want.
No. So the actual conference is in the Moscone Center, which is in downtown San Francisco.
City Center.
It's called downtown.
Downtown. City Center.
I've got the American lit. I nearly said I'm in the line, and then I was like, no, it's a queue.
Don't let them take over.
And where's the bathroom?
No.
The restroom.
There's no bath in there.
No, it's a toilet.
Where's Bog?
Where's Bog? I don't think they'd appreciate that.
No.
Or maybe they would.
Where's the shitter?
A lot of people in America are like, oh my God, I love your surname. Is it real? I'm like, no, I'm walking around with a fucking fake name. Like,
didn't you flirt with the Australian ginger twink?
Oh, he was very willing to talk to me.
I bet.
Whilst he made me a coffee. It was nice to talk to a local. That's fine.
He's Australian.
He lived locally.
San Francisco is not in Australia.
He lived locally.
Okay, we'll take it.
Anyway, so it's in the Moscone Center, but there are loads of really big hotels around. So there are people just meeting in the lobby. But then I would have emails saying, hey, come up to room 1205 and knock on the door. And I'm like,
3 knocks.
Feels a little bit weird. So
Yeah.
I would email back and be like, I'm in the lobby. Can you come and get me?
Yeah.
I'd like to go up in the lift and meet you in public.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was a lot of meetings like that. And then in the evenings, there were loads of events as well. A lot of which are geared more towards indies than anything, which actually is really nice to just go to an event and it's basically just an event space with loads of demo booths and you just work your way around them, speak to the devs, play some games, speak to some other people. Yeah, it's a cool experience. I think it's also I personally found it quite lonely as an experience.
I was there. I stayed up for some nights because I was watching the Formula One that's on at like 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. So we were on pretty much the same time schedule.
Yeah. You thanks for that.
It's fine.
You
thank the
you
Chinese Grand Prix for screwing up my sleep schedule.
Yeah, we did chat a bit.
And Australia.
But the thing is like it's not that I'm not socializing because you're going to tons of meetings, meeting loads of people. So, and there were people there that I knew. There were other journalists I knew. There were other PRs I knew.
Ben Starr.
People from the industry. Met Ben Starr at the GDC Awards. So there were people there I knew, which is fine. It's just that I was there sort of on my own to just go around to as many meetings as I can. And between those meetings, you're like, right, I'm on my own. What's my schedule?
Let's hang around San Francisco. And what did you think of San Francisco? That's a lot nicer than what you said to me. What was the bit about you dodging human turds?
I mean, San Francisco is a quite literal shithole. And I don't want to joke about it too much because it's clearly, an issue with homeless people in the city, which I believe the new mayor is doing a lot to clean up.
I was about to say it's not their fault, it's the mayor's fault. It's the people that are.
Yeah, and I think he's quite recently voted in.
Okay.
So I believe. So I think he's doing a lot to clean up the streets and sort things out, which is good. And the thing is, before I went, so many people were saying to me, watch out in San Francisco. It's really sketchy. It's really unsafe. Don't go out anywhere on your own. Don't walk anywhere and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I've lived in London a long time. Like, I know what it's like in a big city.
We're not going to
And
say where we are now, but where we are now is not nice.
Yeah, it's not great.
We're moving, thank God.
That's why we're moving. But it's a different type of thing when you're in America to what you have here. I mean, the streets were pretty busy with people walking to the conference. And, I felt pretty safe walking around, even just on my own. There were always people on the street, so that was fine. It's just then there's someone rummaging through a bin and screaming into the void, and then a human turd on the side of the street. And that's, exciting, I guess.
Human turd. No. Dog turds I can't forgive, but I'm also like, it's a dog. It does it on the, like, that's part of the process is shitting on the floor and then it gets moved. But usually humans tend to go to toilets. But if they...
I mean, there are no toilets.
Exactly. If there aren't any toilets
the
around,
problem.
then it's not their fault.
There aren't any public toilets. So they have no choice. And that sucks for them and for the city. And should be sorted. But as a tourist coming in, it's a bit of a shock. I will say
Should we
that.
spend 20 minutes talking about the terrible tipping culture? Let's not. But
No,
you did
let's not do
go. You did have a little nice night out though, didn't you? A
I
couple of
did.
nights
I
out.
had a couple of nights out. So away, I was quite keen to get away from the convention just for a couple of nights, just to have
Away from the nerds.
a bit of normality. So I had 2 nights in the Castro, which is the gay district of San Francisco, and the whole city is pretty gay anyway. I mean,
Mhm.
is it it was the first to legalize homosexuality in the US, I believe.
I've no idea. I just know that there's like a. Isn't there like a law where like public nudity is allowed?
You wish.
No, apparently it is. It was just cold
Of
when
course,
you
that's
went.
the one law that you know.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure.
So yeah, the whole city is very queer friendly, no matter where you are. The hotel I was in was in the downtown area. Pride flags outside.
Mhm.
Everywhere is very very LGBT plus friendly. But the Castro is the specific gay district, which is obviously really nice because the gays look after it, and you love to see it. It's a much nicer area. I think it's quite expensive to live in, from
Yeah.
what I know.
I think I might be wrong.
Oh,
Um,
funny that.
it's you can't wear it everywhere. Although it's one of those websites that you got to like. The law is not absolute. Social nudity is allowed. So at any parade, fair, or festival held under a government-issued permit, at private beaches or on private property, obviously. So in other words, just at pride parades you can be naked.
Great.
Maybe it's another place I was thinking about, like Vancouver or somewhere that has like a specific area where it's like, get your bits out.
Interesting.
Yeah, sure.
So
he nearly went out and got his bits out, but you'd have been arrested.
I did not do that.
Good job you didn't.
Yeah, the Thursday night I went and met, or I was met by one of my old university friends, who is a friend of mine from America who did a gap year at university when I was 20, something like that.
You were a twink, even more of a twink.
Yeah. So I haven't seen him in like however many years that is. So it was really nice to catch up with him, and he took me around, showed me around the Castro, gave me the history of the place. So we saw the big Castro Theatre, which is famous.
I went to see that as well.
Which is in Looking.
I went to see it.
Have you seen Looking?
No, but I went to see the Castro Theatre in Watch Dogs 2.
Okay, sure.
I did that. I showed you around. You Watch Dogs 2 is a great game.
Yeah, it seemed like a
And
lot of fun.
Was it realistic?
Ish.
Oh, okay.
And there was also, he showed me, there's a coffee shop with windows all around on one of the corners. And that, I believe, was the first coffee shop or first gay bar to have windows, because most of them were obviously behind closed doors because it was all very private and hush-hush. And that was the first one to have windows and to be public. But now it's known as the Glass Coffin.
Why is it called the Glass Coffin?
Because the average age is about 65.
Wow.
So, and to be fair, he joked about it and we walked past and I was like, no, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of granddaddies in there. So yeah, we had a nice walk around there, went out for a drink and had some food, and yeah, that was really nice. And then the following night, I went back again, but with your
Couldn't
friend.
keep him away. Yes, my friend Cesar, who I've known genuinely, I've never met. I say it's over as a friend, but I've never met. But we got chatting in the old MySpace days. Literally 18 years ago, we were chatting and just, back in the days of MySpace, and I think it was post MSN Messenger. But it was the days before Facebook, and just used to chat away and blah, 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 whatever. And just kind of stayed in touch. I've met he's got a twin brother as well, who I met in Barcelona. Had a drink. But yeah, I was like about 6 months ago. Well, no, 3 months ago when you found out you were going to San Francisco, I was like, I know somebody there. And yeah, made a group chat, and yeah, you got to hang out with him. Meet him before I did.
With him and his husband?
Yes.
So yeah, we went out for some food. We went to a speakeasy cocktail bar, which is one of these where you sort of knock on a very inconspicuous door and they come out and go like, can I help you? And then you have to give the password and they're like, come on in. And it was quite funny. We were drinking some very nice whiskey cocktails. I quite like it old fashioned.
I despise whiskey. Whiskey makes me vomit. There's a thing in whiskey that reacts with my throat that just makes everything come back up instantly. It's horrible.
Okay, well, I'm not ever drinking. I quite liked a whiskey sour, and now I've got quite into an old fashioned.
Well, that explains.
Actually,
stuff.
I had a honeyed old fashioned, which has honey in it, so it's sweeter. It was nice.
No whiskey.
So yeah, and then we went out for cocktails elsewhere, and we ended up in a club called Beau, spelled Beau,
With an X.
With X. Yeah, there's an X in it. Which was where we ended up, which was quite pricey to get in, and we didn't stay very long. But
How was the clientele?
It was a big mix of people, but a large proportion of those were very muscly men not wearing very much.
I can't believe I missed out on this. Yeah, yeah, because my friend there was like, oh yeah, we're in this bar with Ed, and he sent a couple of pictures, but like only of the ceiling. I'm like, why are you only sending pictures of the ceiling? It's like, I don't mind. You can take him to a topless bar. It is fine. I'm not.
But the thing is, then there were loads of people. Like obviously, most people were clothed, and there were young people, old people, big people, small people. Like everyone was there.
Mm-hmm.
So there was, in that sense, it was quite a nice vibe. But it was also quite like hardcore techno sort of dance music. Yeah, a lot of that, and everyone was like super, like held in really tight. It was really busy.
Making more appealing to me.
It was very hot and sweaty in there, which is why people took their clothes off.
Yeah. Did you take anything off?
I did not.
You took your jumper off.
I took my jacket off.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
I took my jacket
Yeah,
off.
to be honest, all the other photos from the previous bars, you were there with a coat.
No, I wasn't.
You had a jacket on.
Well, I took it off when I went in the bar.
Not all of them. I know my friend that had a coat on for most of it.
I'm going to take my coat off, you know.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so I met some of his friends, some locals, and yeah, it was a fun night.
Great.
And also not too late. I was home by like 1:30.
Yeah.
But we got started at like 5.
Yeah, you like
dinner at 5. It was really early.
But anyway, games.
Sorry, well, you asked about the gay stuff.
Well, no, people want to know everything. I'm sure they do, or they can skip forward to it anyway.
Sure.
I'll label the
like
bits of the podcast,
here.
Gay stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was nice to get out. But yeah, I landed and on the Sunday and went straight to Day of the Devs, which was one of the evening events, just full of indie games. There was one game there that was kind of the game of the show, which I didn't actually play myself, but that's because there was a big queue. However, the start of Day of the Devs, there was a media hour, which I missed out on. And at that media hour were Jeff Keighley and Ben Starr together. And they were playing this game. And I now can't remember the name of it, which is really helpful. But essentially, it had a very unique controller, which was a cat's arsehole.
Yep.
And it was a giant fluffy cat's butt. And the idea was that you had to like slap the butt as quickly as possible to like wake up the cat on the screen or something. So it was 2-player with 2 cats, and you just had to try and outslap it. And it actually came up again at the GDC Awards, because they have an award for like interesting controls and interesting controllers. Like there was a game where you're literally in a shower and you have to do stuff in the shower to control it. And
is it wet shower?
I mean, it's not
on.
It's yeah. It's not like a nudie game.
I was about to say, yeah, you have to be naked, or you have to be in your little swimming trunks.
Anyway, it was part of that. So it was part of a sort of innovative control thing, but also you're slapping a cat's butt. So that kept coming up throughout the week. I saw it on the Xbox.
Have you ever slapped a cat's butt?
As well. No, I feel like they'd scratch me back.
Yeah, I don't think cats will enjoy that.
No, but the virtual ones did a lot. So yeah, so that was fun the first night. And then I went to some other indie events in the evenings. There were 3. I've on the floor behind me is a load of crap and business cards and stuff that I've collected. But there were 3 indie games that I was going to bring up, just because I thought they were quite fun and memorable above others. The first is called Slip and Slime, and there's a free demo on Steam. And essentially, you have this little sort of pink slime character who looks a bit like Kirby. And it's just, you know, the sort of like block pushing puzzles where you have to push a block and you push it once and it slides all the way until it hits a wall. Your character is essentially that, and you just have to get to the exit.
Okay.
But it's really simple and just weirdly addictive. So I was just chatting to the dev, but also playing it with one hand, just because all you do is use the control stick to move this character around. And I was just like, boom, 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 done, next level, boom, 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 next level. And it was just, they're releasing it for mobile as well. And for me, I was like, this is the perfect mobile game of just swiping through levels and just whipping through them. And it was a really simple idea, but just really done really well.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite addictive. After that, I played a little game called Steel Century Groove, which is essentially Pokemon meets rhythm RPG, and so you go around the overworld, and you know how in Pokemon there are rivals that see you, and when you walk in their eyesight, they come and battle you. It was the same idea, but when you battle, you've got giant robots, a bit like the Jackbox
robot
rap battle.
Rap, yes.
It's a bit like that.
Madverse City.
Yeah, except for you're pressing buttons in rhythm, and they're dancing and having like a dance off.
Sure.
So it was a bit silly, but I thought it might appeal to people here. And then another one was Ultimate Sheep Raccoon.
Is that similar to Ultimate Chicken Horse?
Yes.
Okay.
So this was a sort of side-scrolling game. You have your animal characters on bikes, and you have to get to the exit. But it's obviously like a weird assault course. However, you then choose different power-ups, and every couple of turns, you choose an object to place in the world, which can either help you or hinder other people. And you get more and more points if you get to the exit first. And it gets really chaotic as more and more things are put in, and you're screwing people over and whatever else. And I won, so I was very happy.
Of course you did. Oh, brilliant.
It got very competitive. But that's the kind of thing where you just go to an event and you don't know anyone, and you'll just walk around on your own. They're like, hey, here's a controller, come play a game with other strangers. And you're like, okay. And that kind of party game like is like demos really well.
Yeah.
And other games you go to and you're like, I just don't know like what. It's just really hard to get into it, basically, if it's like a story game or you know, here's like a Souls Metroidvania, and I'm like, cool, that ticks my boxes and is probably something I'm interested in. But at the same time, 20 minutes, I'm not gonna get very far with that. So it's those sort of indie, like snappy things that just sort of stick in my mind a little bit.
Well, that's good. This was something that you could see and something that you could play with, because I know you were.
Ultimate Sheep Raccoon, I can imagine being a good stream game.
Yeah.
For people who wanted to join.
We have the card here. That's
Have
great.
the card. I've also got my book with all my appointments in. I mean,
tell us what you're allowed to talk about.
I'm not going to go through all of it.
Because you can't talk about all of them anyway, can you?
Well, there's some stuff that I just haven't written about yet. So I can mention it, but I won't go into detail. There's one thing that I can't talk about that it's embargoed, but everything else was embargoed for this week. I'm not going to tell you, am I? Fine. Nice try. But yeah, other stuff was embargoed for this week and is done now, so that's all fine. I don't know, where do you want me to start? I'm not going to go through all of it, but
just tell me your 5 favourite games.
Okay. My 5 favourite games.
Yes. Just start with number 1?
Okay, so I have 2 that are probably my equal top, but one of them I didn't actually play at GDC.
Okay.
And that game is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Now, Is
that different to 33 Sentinels?
Yes.
Okay.
Very different.
2 33s.
So Clair Obscur was at an Xbox event during the week, and they had loads of games to play, and it was just one of them. However, the PR luckily sent me a demo beforehand, which is the same demo that you might have seen streamers play and journalists write about from a couple of weeks ago. But I got to play it myself at home. It did not run very well on my PC.
Yeah, I know.
It was like low graphic settings, and that's my PC being terrible. Please, someone send me a new one. So it didn't look great, but I still got a sense of how it is, and I knew I was going to love it, and I still just absolutely fell in love with it. It's such a good game. There were a couple of things that really grabbed me about it that I maybe didn't quite expect. Firstly was how French it is. And that's really a stupid thing to say when it's a French developer, but they've really put a lot of Frenchness in. So like the characters like swear in French as part of the script.
Okay.
And the costume designs and some of the artwork. They go merde in the middle of it. And like the costume designs and things are feel very French with like berets and stuff. I mean, which is, a bit cliche, but I don't know.
They have garlic around the necks as well.
No, not quite.
Stripy t-shirts.
There was something that looks like the Eiffel Tower, though.
Okay.
If I remember rightly. So I think a lot of people have talked about the Japanese influences on it and the Final Fantasy influences. And so therefore having this game that just feels so French was really refreshing in that context.
A bit like, what's that one that was set in the UK? There's like a weird thing that's in the future that just got shown recently. And I'm sure that's it was only shown quite recently. And it was like in a dystopian UK. Or am I thinking of Clair Obscur and it is actually France?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe it is
I
France.
don't know. That does remind me, though, there was another indie game at an event I saw,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember the name. I've got the card down there, but it's set in Neo Barcelona,
Oh,
which I knew
looking forward
you'd
to that.
appreciate.
Yeah.
And it's this sort of futuristic cyberpunk anime, side-scrolling Metroidvania, sort of all pixel art anime style. But it's set in Neo Barcelona with Barcelona landmarks, and even in that far-flung future, the Sagrada Familia is still not complete.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. Makes sense.
But it
I
is
mean,
now the base to some sort of dodgy faction
I'm
in the
getting
world of that
confused,
game.
but it's not Titanfall, but yeah. I thought there was something, but maybe it's Clair Obscur and it was... When was that? Was that announced not that long ago?
There was a trailer not that long ago, yeah.
Hmm.
The other thing that struck me about Clair Obscur was how Soulsy it is. And what I don't want is for that to put people off it, because it's not Soulsy in the sense of difficult and challenging, although it can be. To get all the dodges and parries right, you do have to have good timing, but the parry is inspired by Sekiro. So the director was like a speedrunner for Sekiro and loved Souls games. So he wanted to replicate the feel of that parry, but within the context of a turn-based RPG. But just exploration, you're basically going from flag to flag, which feels a bit like going to bonfires, and you replenish your health there, you level up there. And also there is a weapon scaling system, just like in the Souls games. So when you get a new weapon, it will have a rating based on specific stats, and it scales with that. So it's sort of taken that idea as well, which I think is really interesting to add to this kind of turn-based RPG. I just love this game already. It's like it was a game made for me, which I love.
Yeah, it does seem like that, doesn't it?
So I didn't play it at GDC. I did get to chat with the producer. I have an interview with him on Eurogamer. So please go and read that. But yes, I loved that. The other game that was my favorite that I did play at GDC was Phantom Blade Zero.
Yeah, which you also played at Gamescom, didn't you?
I did. I played at Gamescom last year. Let me get some water.
Yeah, should we pause for a second? I need to refill mine. Yeah, and we're back.
So Phantom Blade Zero is a game from a Chinese developer called S Game, and it's essentially it's an action game, basically. When it was first shown, people were like, "Oh, is it a Souls-like?" And then the more it's been shown, everyone's like, "Oh, is it like a character DMC Ninja Gaiden game?" And really, it's a bit of both. And they did a presentation for me, and they showed me the sort of the three key pillars, basically. So what they're taking is the sort of combo-driven action of a Devil May Cry, but with the grim atmosphere and the level design of a Dark Souls game.
Okay.
Meets the kind of haunting dark tone of Resident Evil 4.
Right.
And they're calling it Kung Fu Punk. So the idea is that they're trying to make this like a playable Kung Fu film. And they're looking back at like the sort of Jackie Chan, Jet Li kind of Hong Kong action films and trying to give you that vibe. And you're playing as the swordsman fighting stuff. It is kind of Soulsy in the sense that it is very combat heavy and it's difficult. And it has dodges and parries that are very similar to Stellar Blade, I thought. In that it gives you sort of different coloured flashes and you have to match the right dodge and parry. But when you do, it goes to slow motion and you flip around, you do like super attacks. And it's got super hard bosses. All they've shown really at the moment is bosses, both at Gamescom last year and here. What I got to play is essentially the boss from the latest trailer, which is the Year of the Snake trailer. It's just fucking cool. It feels so good in the way that, as someone who's played a lot of Souls games and is playing Sekiro with the parry and everything, parrying in this game feels amazing and it looks flashy. It's just a really cool and really stylish game. And I think when there are so many action games coming out, especially from China, in the wake of Black Myth Wukong and whatever else, for me, this is massive. It's going to be really big, and it just plays so well. I will say as well, there's something particularly scary and frightening about playing a very intense Soulsy style action game in front of the developer. When I'm playing it and the director walks in and starts trying to talk to me, and I'm really jokingly being like, "Can you please shut the fuck up because I need to concentrate because I want to do this." Yeah, but he was like, "You're doing great, you're doing great." He was Chinese, but he spoke really good English, which was great. So we had some banter over that.
Oh.
And I think I beat this boss in about 20 minutes. There was a bit of a training session and then 20 minutes overall. And they said to me that most people did it in over 30. So I was very happy.
They say that to everybody.
They probably do, yeah. Also, if you do want the extra difficulty, I was playing on normal. There's then a hard mode, and then there's now a new extreme mode that they're adding in, which basically they are stripping out all of the combos from bosses, and they are tweaking the AI to make it feel like it's a real person. So it's like an AI that learns your moves dynamically and can react to you. So the idea is it's like you're playing PvP, but it's a boss.
This will be big then, this game.
I think it's going to be massive. They were talking in their presentation, literally comparing it to Black Myth Wukong, and how in the West, at least, not in China, but in the rest of the world, their game has more views on YouTube than Black Myth Wukong does. And if you think how big Black Myth Wukong was, this game, I think, is going to be very, very popular. But rightly so, because from what I've played, it's fucking brilliant.
Great.
So they were probably my two favorites. But I saw some other cool stuff. There's the little indies I've already spoken about. One game I really liked is called To a T. And it's developed by the same guy that did the Katamari Damacy games, which is about the rolling ball collecting stuff. And it's published by Annapurna.
Yeah.
So Annapurna are known for publishing really good games. And the idea of this game is that it's like a day in the life of this young kid who is stuck in the shape of a T. So it's kind of a play on the T-pose that is like a bug in games, but also, that's kind of the basis of any character design is, doing them in a T-pose. And he's basically stuck in a T-pose and has to go about his day. And so the gameplay is you helping him. I mean, it starts off with him needing a shit. I say shit. He goes to the toilet. I'm going to presume it was a shit. And it's like he wakes up and then alarm bells ringing. He's like, I've got to go. But he's got to get out of bed and open the door carefully. And how does he wipe his ass and whatever else? And then you've got to help him clean his teeth and wash his face. And so he sort of leans across to the tap and then like dunks his head in face first into the water. And he's got this really adorable pet dog that follows him everywhere that like helps him out. And so it's things like picking his clothes and stuff. But then he goes, I've got to go to school. I don't want to go to school. And suddenly you're like, oh shit, this poor kid's getting bullied at school because he's stuck in a T-pose and no one else is. And you're like, and you've got to help him go to school. And he's like, I'm running late and I've got to get my sandwich from a singing giraffe because of course. And the giraffe then sings a song because it turns out it's also a musical. And it's just...
It sounds perfect. It's going to make people cry.
It will make people laugh and cry in equal measure. So the point of the game really is that it's all about disability, and it's been developed in conjunction with Able Gamers. So there's a disabled charity behind it, and they're trying to sort of give you a serious message about living with disability and what that's like. But it's presented in this colourful, childlike world of musicals, and it's very Japanese as well. You go to school, you have to take your shoes off at the start and all that sort of stuff. It's a really, really cute game. I played it for 20 minutes and it made a really big impression on me. So that was really good. I really enjoyed that one. I think people should definitely look out for that.
When's that out? Do we know?
That's a good question. I think maybe this year.
Ooh, good.
Maybe this year.
To a T.
What's the date?
It's the 27th of
This is
March.
out tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, that's fine. I played a bit of Baby Steps.
Yes.
Which is Devolver.
Yeah.
Published. And that is a game about a sort of man baby who goes to another world and has to learn to walk. It's very weird. It's very Australian. And I didn't think I'd like it, but actually it was very meditative.
Well, it's because the dev gave you another compliment. Whenever a dev gives Ed a compliment about how he plays it, it's like, this is the best game ever.
No.
Isn't that true?
No.
Did he give you a compliment?
It was a she.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, so basically the way you control the game is that it's like the left triggers your left leg and the right triggers your right leg. And so you have to click the trigger to lift your leg, push the stick forward to place it and then let go. And then you do the same with the right, and you have to do left, right. And obviously you end up falling over at the start, and it's all very silly. But by the end of it, I just kind of got into this like meditative rhythm with it. And so she turned to me and was like, "Can I ask you a question? Do you play a musical instrument?" And I said, "Yes." And then she was like, "See, you're playing this in a very musical, like rhythmic way, like a rhythm game. And some people," and I was like, "Well, how else do you play it?" They were like, "Some people have just like."
I played it a bit a few weeks ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
And how did you play it?
Oh, no, it's falling. All right, there you go. Here's someone else.
Flopped over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did play a little bit, but it was the very, 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 very start. So it was kind of nothing. It was easy.
Yeah. And eventually you got to like climb a mountain and stuff. And I that's going to go places, which was interesting. Another game I played that hopefully we're going to play together, which I think people listening will like. And it's a game called Sunderfolk. Now, this is from a new company called Dreamhaven, and that was set up by a guy called Mike Morhaime, who was the boss of Blizzard and was really big on World of Warcraft.
We just announced a new game as well.
So yeah, Dreamhaven had a stream earlier this week, and they've announced a few games. So this is one of them. The reason I bring up World of Warcraft is just because the style of this game is this really beautiful fantasy world of fantasy creatures, but it's all woodland animals. And it had a bit of a kind of Warcrafty kind of colourful fantasy land vibe to it. So that's why I just make that connection for you. The game itself is inspired by tabletop games, and it's meant to be like it's a tabletop board game on the big screen, but you control it with your phone. So the idea is that it's making this sort of D&D style tabletop game accessible for anybody. And part of that is the woodland creature animals. So there were 3 classes to play as. There was the Berserker, who was a bear.
Berserker.
There was the Bard, who was a musical bat, and that's who I played as. And then there was a Ranger, who was this like sprightly deer. There's also a little lizard pyromancer and other characters. So it's meant to be like it's approachable for anyone because it's just animal characters. And you have different missions, which are battles. They're turn-based battles. They're on like a hexagonal grid, and it's turn-based battles. But what's quite cool about it is that you don't roll for initiative. So you know how in Baldur's Gate, every character has initiative, and that dictates the order of how you battle?
I don't know.
Despite playing it, you don't know.
I have no idea. All these buttons, initiative, dexterity, it's all the same.
Okay. Well, there's that. This doesn't have that. So the idea is that anyone can battle at any point. And the way you battle is that you have a deck of cards with different skills, which are on your phone. And you literally just swipe up on your phone. You basically like scan a QR code to download an app, and that's how you get it.
Do you think it's going to be quite easy, the game? Is it like a fun little party game, or is there going to be some skill?
There's strategy involved.
Okay.
What's cool is that obviously only you can see your deck of cards on your phone. So there's stuff happening on the screen that's public, but you've also got your own private view. And so that forces you then to communicate and work as a team. And because you can go in any order, you might look at the battles and go, okay, well, I've got this ability, which means I can do that. But then if you do this afterwards, then that's going to give you a buff, which then means that the other person can do this. And so you have to strategize before you start doing stuff, which is really cool. And then after the battle phase, you then go back to the town, and you can explore the town and go to different, like the tavern or the temple or the restaurant, whatever. And you can have relationships with characters and romance them. And
romance with people, like characters.
Other animals.
Oh, okay. Not other people that you're with.
Well, maybe you might want to do that on the slide anyway.
Yeah.
But on the side or on the sly. And I said on the slide.
On the slide.
And you can sort of like name and customize parts of the town, so it feels like it's like your campaign. But again, all of that happens on your phone. So it's like you've got your own private relationships and private information that you're learning that you can then give out to people that, you know, to help on the big screen. So it's just a really cool mix of sort of public and private information that's making this tabletop thing approachable. It reminded me a lot of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
Yes.
Which I know you played. And I played as well back on the GameCube. But I never had the Game Boy connector, so I can never play it properly.
I didn't either, I don't think.
Yeah. So it's giving you that sort of sense of you know, private stuff on your phone. I think anyone who's interested in tabletop games, go look up Sunderfolk, because I think you'll really like it.
Yeah, it started to pop off a bit on social media. I think people are looking at it now.
Yeah. I had some other cool stuff. I had an interview with the director of Liza P. So got to chat a bit about the expansion coming, which looks cool. I chatted with the devs of Tides of Annihilation, which is that Chinese game about King Arthur or about the Knights of the Round Table, which was cool. There was one game that did disappoint me a little bit.
Was that the one I was thinking about, actually? Knights of the Round Table one?
Maybe.
No, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Oh my god, it actually is. It's set in London.
Yes.
With bus stops and stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I knew I hadn't dreamt this. I was like,
There
it
we
wasn't
go.
as old.
You got there in the end.
Yeah, what was it called again?
Tides of Annihilation.
Yes, I knew that we'd get there eventually.
So it's a 10-cent.
And isn't there like a Big
published-
Ben and the London Eye? Yeah, there.
yeah.
I remember.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm not good.
But you're playing as Gwendolyn, and she can summon the
Yes.
Knights of the Round Table in combat.
Mm-hmm.
It looks really cool. So I spoke with them. Yeah, one game that did disappoint me was another Chinese game that I was actually really looking forward to, and that was Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, which is not to be confused with Wukong. Wu Chang. And this came up at like Xbox showcases. It's like a big Souls-like game that Xbox are pushing. And it was fine. It played well. I immediately jumped into the controls, knew what I was doing, was exploring this sort of old, decrepit Chinese town, and there's lots of Chinese folklore and bosses and cool combat and all that sort of stuff. But it just didn't do anything different. It was just a really standard Souls-like game that happens to be set in China. And I think even Wukong has like loads of spectacle with its bosses and like amazing style. And Phantom Blade Zero's got that really snappy combat with the parrying and everything. And this just didn't stand out for me. So it was fine. It's like a decent like 7 out of 10 game. Like it's a perfectly fine Souls-like. It just does what you expect it to. And it didn't do anything more than that. So I was a little bit disappointed by that.
It's very sad.
I had an interview with Koji Issei, who is the UI designer at Atlas and did the UI design for Metaphor.
Yes, and gave you some very special.
Yeah, so he
things.
did a panel event that was all about designing UI, and I couldn't make it because I had another interview. But luckily, Sega said, "Do you want to interview him afterwards?" So I got my own little half an hour, 20-minute interview with him, and I asked him questions about UI, obviously that was relevant, and therefore he kind of showed me stuff that was in his presentation, which included some old concept designs from Metaphor to show the development of how the menus evolved as the themes of the game evolved, which I then got sent afterwards and put in my piece. So you can go to Eurogamer to see those.
Great.
So that was very cool. That was most of the cool stuff that I played. I think another thing that I really enjoyed was a panel event on Astrobot. Now, a lot of the panel events are sort of very specific little things, but then there are some that are a bit broader that loads of people want to go to, and that's the ones that like are good for journalists. So this was Nicolas Doucet, who is the director of Astrobot, French guy, but works in Japan for the studio. And it was literally the making of Astrobot. And it was an hour of him just talking about how they made the game. And sometimes, like, what's great about these panels is when you go and hear someone talk about how they made the game, and it just makes you appreciate it even more than you did beforehand. It was a really well done presentation. It was done out like the world map with different planets. And each topic that he went through was like a different planet. So it was like we were going through Astro's world. And just little things about how, like, one of the big things was about how it's a small game. You know, there's plenty of money behind it because it's PlayStation, but it had sort of AA ambitions of being just small and concise. And he talked a lot about the tempo of the game and how it has a very quick tempo. And part of that is down to the controls being simple and being approachable. And part of that is the fact that there are very few cutscenes and very little dialogue or words. I think there's only like 4,000 words in the entire game, which made localization easier. Things like the loading screens, when he's flying through, you can still control that. So it still feels like you're in it. You're not being taken out of the experience. But also right down to things like the placement of enemies. So they would place different types of enemies with either, you either have to punch or jump or whatever. and the cameo bots, they would place those in such a way across the levels that it creates almost like a melody that you kind of go through them in rhythm. So you go punch, jump, punch, kick, whatever. And it's almost like it takes you through the level in this sort of melodic way, which I just found really interesting to hear a platformer level design talked about in musical terms, but in a way that just really made sense to me. And things like the placement of the bots. So about 50% of the bots they decided were going to be easy to see but hard to get to. So you can see them in the distance, but you're like, right, how do I get there?
Yeah.
And then I think 30% were easy to see but funny. So they're the ones that you just see around you, and it's like, okay, they tend to be the more casual ones for casual players and kids. But they're funny, so you don't mind that they're easy to find. And then the other 20% were ones that are really hard to find, but they're the most obscure characters for like hardcore fans. So just understanding like how they did all of that kind of stuff with the bots, like there was so many little details in it of stuff he talked about that was really interesting. Again, I wrote about that on Eurogamer, so you can go and read it all up on there. But that was a really interesting panel that really made me appreciate the game on a new level. So I'm really glad that I went to that. And I think there are other panels similar I just didn't get to. So yeah, that's some of the good stuff that I got to do, basically.
Oh, that's really good. And how was the jet lag?
Do you know what? I slipped into it quite easily there. I somehow managed to sleep through till like 6, 7 each day instead of waking up at 3 like I thought I would.
Flying west is a lot easier than flying east. Because it took you quite a few days. Like you slept for about 12 hours last night.
Yeah, I've been busy with work, with writing all of this stuff, as well as trying to get over the jet lag. So and also packing, or not packing yet for me. So yeah, there's just a lot.
The night is still young.
All right.
Also, how was flying United?
Would not recommend.
No? Neither did anybody before when you still went.
Well, I mean, it was what was available, but yeah, the food was absolutely atrocious. The service was not very good. The air steward literally just like threw a napkin.
Are you complaining
because
there weren't any attractive air stewards?
Well, I didn't publicly complain.
Okay.
I mentioned it to you.
Oh, well. I didn't
In
realize this was private.
Okay. Yeah, and also the way back, there was like a screaming baby 2 rows in front of me. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to sleep. And I could not sleep. So yeah,
noise-cancelling headphones.
Well, I did put them on. I could still hear it, even with that and music playing.
Well, that's no.
So it was a loud screaming for the majority of the 9-hour flight.
That's I don't know. It's sometimes they have to get from one place to another.
Do you?
Well, yeah.
Do you have to travel? Anyway, so yes, there was that, and I got back, and when like you just feel like dizzy from lack of sleep.
Yeah.
There was that for a while.
But you're back to normal now.
I think so.
Fighting fit,
I think
ready
so.
to pack.
Sure.
I think it's time to end this so that you can go pack.
Well, we had a few what we've been playing.
We did. Do we want to do those?
Yes.
Okay.
We can read them quickly.
I'll let you do them.
Let me just get them up.
Right, so Ed will locate these. I will pause while he gets them.
No.
All right.
So we begin with Diver Cat, who says, so far, Split Fiction is amazing. Bubbles and I have been playing it a bit, and it's been super fun. I'm grateful it seems to have some guide rails for not-so-great gamers such as myself. We need to get back to that.
Yes, loved what
really
we played
enjoyed
so
it.
far. Really loved. So, yeah.
So Mr. Wibble, I've been playing Avowed, which isn't a particularly hard game, but it's enjoyable to play, and the story isn't terrible. I'm enjoying the combat, and one of the companions, Kai, is a blast. If there were romancing options, I know where to go. Isn't he like a weird lizard man? He's like a green lizard man.
Right.
I just now played 2 cute little indie games, River Towns, a puzzle game where you get Tetris-style tiles with buildings on them. I've heard of this. And you have to fit them together to get the bigger score. Story-wise, you're restoring a river and the towns around it. Yeah, that looks really cute. So it's like each of the town blocks is a Tetris shape, and you've got to piece it together. The other one is Urban Jungle, which very much has an unpacking style, but with plants. There's a bit more storytelling, but you go through various living situations where you place plants to gather points and progress the story. It's nice, chill, and would frustrate Ed to no end.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I won't play that then. Pete Random has also been playing Avowed and enjoying it far more than expected. I agree with Wibble that it's not particularly hard, which I like, and the combat and skill system are great. I love how the discovery of an interesting, unique weapon entirely changes my way of playing. You're not tied to being a particular class and can pay to reset your skill tree. So I've gone from full-on wand and spellbook approach to gun and axe man to now focusing on being freeze and stun mace man. Movement also feels great and the worlds are cool.
Did I start that?
I started it and I've played about an hour and was like, oh, it's another fantasy game. Cool. And that's fine. I think it's good what it does. It's just Monster Hunter took over for me.
Yeah, no, I think I did about an hour of it as well and didn't love it. But I know loads of people that have just been like, it's their kind of go-to chill game. And a lot of people are really enjoying it. So maybe it's like the one you play until something better comes.
For me, an hour until Monster Hunter arrives, yeah. The other game Pete Rand has been obsessed with is Synergy, a post-apocalyptic colony survival city builder game. That's a lot. Come for the beautiful art style and stay for the addictive mechanics. The thing I like especially is having to discover what different types of flora provide, how best to cultivate them.
Oh, I've seen this, yeah.
On normal mode, I think it's quite hard and about managing your citizens' health in this baking world. I think the opposite of Frostpunk. But they offer a creative mode where the environmental demands are much less, so you just focus on building a great working city.
I like
it's early access, but I'm loving it.
Top Reddit thing says, Synergy is cute and creative, but don't go in expecting much excitement.
Oh. Clasco says, I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Yeah.
It already feels like a very different experience to the other Xenoblade games, but I'm warming to it and I like my player character a lot now. The whole game is just about exploration and discovery. Capt has also been playing Xenoblade Chronicles X and about 35 hours of Assassin's Creed Shadow, both very different genres of game, but one scratches the RPG sci-fi itch, the other the itch to stab things after a rough work week.
I'm like 11 hours into that, 12 hours.
I'd really like to play Xenoblade Chronicles X. And I wasn't a huge fan of
It's Chronicles
3.
Cross?
Oh, Cross. Okay,
I think
sorry.
so.
I wasn't a huge fan of 3. I sort of liked it, but just dropped off it. But this one does look cool.
Yeah,
So,
I like the fact that it's all about, like, there's the mech thing on the front, and you don't get that until, like, 30 hours in.
Great. But yeah, I feel like I'd like to play it. You've played a bit of Assassin's Creed as well.
Yeah, it's about 11, 12 hours in.
What do you think in 2 sentences?
It is great. It's an Assassin's Creed game with some frustrating bits.
Okay.
Like the movement and stuff can be a bit frustrating. Like I'm holding X, you can kind of like let's go straight forwards and all this stuff. But there's just like a lot of kind of like hard walls that you're pretending to try and climb up as you're running away from someone. And I don't know, the controls are a little bit frustrating, but it's it's fine.
It's fine. There you go.
I mean, Assassin's Creed, you don't really need to. I'm trying to find the pronunciation of Xenoblade Chronicles, but it doesn't say anything here. Maybe I'm wrong. Cross. But yeah, it's another Assassin's Creed game, but it's set in Japan, just like Ghost of Tsushima was, and there's a lot of things that just look the same, and yeah, it's just mindless. Like I played a little bit today. I cleared out a few areas, killed some of the samurai daishos, whatever they're called, and got some nice points for that, and just kind of cleared that bit. I'll go back to the story soon. It's fine. That's kind of
there you go.
Solid 8 out of 10.
Oh, more than I thought you'd say.
Well, I mean, 8 out of 10 is like average, isn't it?
No. 6 is average.
It looks beautiful. It plays incredibly well on the PS5 Pro. Some of the characters are very cute. Story is terrible as always.
Have you petted a lot of cats?
I've petted a couple of cats and invited them to my house.
I bet you did.
And then I don't know. It's just like the combat, like this, for example, the like assassinating people can be kind of cool, and you're hiding in the grass and stuff, and then someone will get close to you and you can assassinate them, and then that bit feels really cool. But if you're, I don't know, you can be really close to somebody and it doesn't show up saying assassinate, or there's a person that's just not going, and you're trying to run away and you're getting photo mode added because I'm using the left stick to kind of run, but I'm also untagging myself from another person, because if you're with the right stick, so if you push the left stick and the right stick, it goes into photo mode. However, I sometimes use both of them at the same time, and it's usually when I'm in a panic, and then that's the last thing I want in my fucking face is photo mode while I'm trying to run away from 6 people that are all chasing me.
Is there an option to turn photo mode off?
Probably, and I'll find that.
Okay.
Because like you press the right joystick in to kind of tag people or to auto lock, and then use the left one to run. But sometimes if I'm running away, and it's tagged onto somebody, then it's impossible to run away because the camera's just focused on them. So I click on the other one to untag, and half the time it doesn't do it. But then it goes into photo mode, and I'm like, this is really annoying. And just sometimes I'm wanting to like climb up something, and the way that the camera has kind of reacted, or I'm pressing this button and it ends up me like jumping off a wall into a river, and I'm like, that's the fucking last thing I wanted to do. So the controls can be very fiddly, but
I mean, that sounds like Assassin's Creed.
yeah. I don't know, it felt smoother in previous ones, especially, I don't know, I miss Odyssey and Origins. They were my favorites. I kind of miss the slightly more, I don't know, it just feels a bit repetitive at the moment. But I'm doing the repetitive side stuff, so
That'll be it then.
yeah. I'm interested to see when I go to the other areas, because at the moment it is quite samey. But we'll see. All right. Well, that was a special GDC. And San Francisco, are you going to go next year?
Maybe.
If
If I'm allowed.
you've got any bar suggestions for Ed, drop them.
Or food suggestions.
Or food
Oh
suggestions.
my God, I went to Super Duper Burger and it was...
Super duper?
It might be the best burger I've ever had in my life. Now, that might be the tiredness / hunger / jet lag.
Yeah, you were like, I've never been so hungry in my life.
Genuinely, it was just like the most beautiful burger. And I had a strawberry...
garnish.
Strawberry lemonade with it.
Strawberry aid.
Sure.
Okay.
And then a huge thing of chips with cheese and garlic sauce on, or garlic oil.
Sounds quite nice.
It was so good. It was like the best meal of my life.
Okay, I'm really hungry now. All right
Sorry.
then. So, Super Duper Burger. Go there.
It sounds like something from Fallout
Yeah.
because they have Super Duper Cola.
I thought it's Nuka-Cola.
Oh, Nuka Cola. Super Duper Mart is the
I don't know.
supermarket, I think.
Anyway, that was GDC. Leave your comments if you've been, or you have some recommendation for San Francisco. And we'll see you very, very soon. We're not sure when, but it won't be from this room. This will be the last thing we ever record, because I'm about to close it all down.
Aw.
Can't wait. Where can we find you, Ed?
You can find me at ed_nights basically everywhere. Most places. I'm on Blue Sky more now.
But what, are you on Blue Sky?
I think is it ed.nights?
No.
Am I not?
No, you're Ed Nights.
Oh, Ed Nights. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
So Ed Nights.
Same.
And I'm Biggest Bennis everywhere that matters. All right.
Nice. Right, well, we'll see you next time, whenever that is. Thank you very much for listening and watching.
Bye.
Bye.